The warm Saturday sun bathed the neighborhood playground in soft golden light. Freshly cut grass scented the air, while a gentle breeze carried the joyful sounds of children laughing, chasing one another, and calling to their parents. It was the kind of afternoon that felt ordinary to everyone else. To Victoria Hayes, it felt extraordinary simply because she had decided to spend it with her daughter instead of inside another conference room. For nearly 3 years, Victoria's life had been divided into two completely different worlds. One was the polished world of billion-dollar business deals, television interviews, and board meetings. In that world, she was known as the Iron CEO, a woman who never hesitated, never showed weakness, and never accepted failure. The other world existed behind the doors of her quiet mansion, where every evening she became nothing more than a grieving mother searching for a miracle. Ever since the terrible accident that claimed her husband's life, 8-year-old Emma had stopped speaking. Doctors confirmed there was nothing physically wrong with her voice. Every medical test came back normal. Specialists explained that Emma's silence was caused by emotional trauma so deep that her mind had simply locked away her ability to speak. Victoria refused to give up. She hired the country's best speech therapists. She flew experts in from Europe. She arranged music therapy, animal therapy, art therapy, and even experimental treatment programs. Every professional left with the same conclusion: give her time. But time felt unbearably slow. Some nights Victoria would sit outside Emma's bedroom after she had fallen asleep, listening to the gentle rhythm of her breathing. She would close her eyes and try to remember the sound of her daughter's voice before the accident. She remembered Emma singing while brushing her teeth. She remembered her laughing uncontrollably whenever her father told silly jokes. She remembered hearing the word, "Mommy," shouted from upstairs whenever Emma needed help with homework. Those memories had become treasures that hurt almost as much as they comforted. This morning, Victoria had shocked everyone at the office. Her assistant rushed into her office carrying an organized schedule. "Ma'am, the investors from London have arrived. Reschedule. The television interview starts at 1. Cancel it. The board meeting. Move it to Monday." The assistant blinked in disbelief. "Is everything all right?" Victoria smiled sadly. "No, but I'm taking my daughter to the playground." The assistant had worked for Victoria for 8 years. It was the first time she had ever seen the CEO cancel an entire day without discussing profits or emergencies. An hour later, Victoria parked beside a small community playground that looked nothing like the expensive private parks Emma usually visited. There were chipped benches, a faded merry-go-round, children wearing clothes stained with grass and dirt. Nothing about the place was luxurious. That was exactly why Victoria chose it. She wanted Emma to experience something normal instead of another carefully planned therapy session disguised as fun. Emma climbed out of the car quietly, holding her worn stuffed rabbit close to her chest. The rabbit had been a gift from her father only weeks before the accident. It had become her constant companion. Victoria reached for her daughter's hand. Emma accepted it without hesitation. That tiny gesture meant more than words ever could. They walked slowly through the park. Children laughed as they raced toward the swings. 2 brothers argued over whose turn it was on the slide. A little girl proudly showed her father a handful of colorful flowers she had picked near the fence. Emma watched everything carefully. She rarely joined other children anymore. Instead, she preferred observing them from a safe distance. Victoria guided her toward a quiet wooden bench beneath a large oak tree. "You don't have to do anything today," she said softly. "No therapists. No pressure. No one asking you to speak. We're just here to enjoy the sunshine." Emma leaned against her mother's shoulder for a brief moment before sitting beside her. Victoria smiled. Even silent affection felt like progress. Across the playground, another family was enjoying their afternoon. Daniel Carter adjusted the straps on his son's backpack before pretending to inspect him like a serious soldier. Daniel said dramatically. "I think we're missing something." 5-year-old Noah looked confused. "What?" Daniel tapped his own nose. "A brave explorer always wears an invisible adventure helmet." Noah laughed. "Oh." He placed an imaginary helmet on his head. "Now I'm ready." Daniel saluted. "Permission to conquer the playground." "Permission granted." Noah sprinted toward the climbing frame with endless energy. Daniel watched proudly. Being a single father wasn't easy. His wife, Lily, had passed away after a long illness 2 years earlier. The loss nearly destroyed him. For months he struggled to balance construction work with raising a little boy who missed his mother every single day. There were mornings when Daniel wanted to stay in bed. But Noah always gave him a reason to keep moving. His son's laughter became the sound that slowly stitched his broken heart back together. Daniel noticed the quiet girl sitting alone on the bench. Unlike the other children, she wasn't asking to play. She simply watched. Her expression wasn't fearful, it was thoughtful, almost as though she wanted to join but couldn't convince herself to take the first step. Noah followed his father's gaze. Dad, yes. Why is she alone? Daniel smiled gently. Maybe she's shy. Can I ask her to play? You can. What if she says no? Daniel rested a hand on Noah's shoulder. Then you smile, wish her a nice day, and respect her answer. Noah nodded seriously. Okay. He grabbed his favorite red toy dinosaur from his backpack and marched confidently across the playground. Victoria noticed the little boy approaching. She instinctively became protective. Many children had stopped trying to play with Emma after realizing she never answered. She expected another awkward moment. Instead, Noah stood a few feet away and smiled. Hi. Emma looked up. My dinosaur is lonely. Emma blinked. He keeps scaring everyone. Noah lowered his voice dramatically. But he's actually very friendly. Emma stared at the little red dinosaur. Noah waited patiently. My name's Noah. Still no answer. That's okay. He shrugged. You don't have to talk. Victoria looked up in surprise. Noah simply sat on the grass nearby. He began making funny dinosaur voices while pretending the toy was searching for snacks. The dinosaur only eats socks, Noah announced. Especially stinky socks. Emma's lips twitched. Victoria held her breath. Noah continued. He accidentally ate my dad's sock yesterday. Daniel laughed from across the playground. Hey, that was my favorite sock. It deserved it. Noah shouted back. Several parents chuckled. Emma covered her mouth. A tiny laugh escaped. Not a voice, just a soft breath filled with amusement. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. It wasn't speech, but it was the happiest reaction Emma had shown in months. Daniel saw Victoria's emotional expression and realized this little moment meant far more than he had understood. He didn't interrupt. Sometimes miracles began with nothing more than patience, kindness, and a child who didn't know he was changing someone's world. Neither parent realized that this simple meeting between two lonely families was only the beginning of a story that would soon transform all of their lives forever. The afternoon drifted by gently, and for the first time in what felt like years, Victoria didn't keep checking her phone. It remained tucked away in her handbag, vibrating every few minutes with calls from executives, investors, and reporters. None of them mattered at that moment. Every bit of her attention was fixed on Emma. Noah continued inventing adventures for his little red dinosaur. Soon, the dinosaur wasn't just looking for socks anymore, it had become a fearless explorer searching for hidden treasure beneath the playground. My dinosaur thinks there's a secret cave under the slide, Noah announced dramatically. He knelt beside the slide and pretended to examine the ground. Oh no, he whispered loudly. There are giant dragon footprints. Emma watched him carefully. Her eyes followed every exaggerated movement. When Noah tripped over his own shoelace on purpose and landed softly in the grass, she let out another silent laugh, covering her mouth with both hands. Victoria felt her heart swell. Every therapist had tried structured exercises, flashcards, songs, and breathing techniques. Yet this cheerful little boy was accomplishing more in 20 minutes than months of expensive treatment had achieved. Daniel finally walked over, carrying 2 bottles of water. You've been playing hard, he said, handing one to Noah. Then he looked politely at Victoria. I'm sorry if Noah is bothering your daughter. Victoria quickly shook her head. Not at all, she smiled, something she hadn't done naturally in a long time. I should actually be thanking him. Daniel noticed the emotion in her voice. I'm Daniel. Victoria. They shook hands. I'm guessing Emma is your daughter. Victoria nodded. Yes. Daniel glanced toward Emma, who was now letting Noah place the toy dinosaur beside her stuffed rabbit. They seem to be getting along. They do. Victoria hesitated before continuing. My daughter hasn't spoken since an accident 3 years ago. Daniel's smile faded into quiet sympathy. I'm sorry. So am I. She looked down at her hands. She lost her father that day. Daniel remained silent for a moment. I lost my wife 2 years ago. Victoria looked up. For the first time, she saw beyond his worn work clothes and paint-stained boots. She saw another parent carrying invisible pain. Noah was only 3, Daniel continued quietly. He didn't understand why mommy never came home. Victoria whispered, I'm sorry. Daniel gave a small smile. Kids are stronger than we think. They watched the children together. Noah suddenly held up the dinosaur. Mr. Rex says your bunny looks sad. Emma looked down at her stuffed rabbit. Then, very gently, she nodded. Noah smiled brightly. I knew it. My dinosaur says they should become best friends. Emma slowly placed the rabbit beside the dinosaur. The two toys sat facing each other on the bench. Noah began creating funny conversations between them. The rabbit supposedly loved carrots. The dinosaur insisted pizza was better. Soon they were arguing about which superhero would win in a race. Emma's shoulders shook with silent laughter. Daniel chuckled. He never runs out of stories. Victoria smiled. I can tell. Nearby, a little girl accidentally dropped her ice cream and burst into tears. Without thinking, Emma stood. She walked over to the crying child. Everyone watched quietly. Emma reached into her small backpack, pulled out a packet of tissues, and gently handed one to the little girl. The child accepted it with a grateful smile. Her mother thanked Emma warmly. Although Emma didn't answer, she gave a small nod before returning to the bench. Daniel watched thoughtfully. She's incredibly kind. Victoria's eyes filled again. She always was. For several minutes, the four of them simply enjoyed the peaceful afternoon. It almost felt like two ordinary families spending time together. No titles, no business deals, no painful past, just parents watching children play. Then Noah noticed a pair of ducks swimming in the nearby pond. Emma, he pointed excitedly before realizing she never answered. Come feed the ducks with me. Emma looked at Victoria. Victoria smiled encouragingly. It's your choice. After a brief hesitation, Emma stood. She walked beside Noah toward the pond. Victoria instinctively started to follow, but Daniel gently stopped. They'll be okay. Victoria looked uncertain. I haven't let her out of my sight since the accident. I understand. Daniel spoke softly. But sometimes healing begins when we give children just a little space. Victoria watched as Noah happily tossed small pieces of bread toward the ducks while explaining that one of them looked like an old pirate captain. Emma listened closely. Every few moments, another smile appeared. Another tiny laugh escaped. The walls she had built around herself weren't gone. But tiny cracks had begun to appear. Neither Victoria nor Daniel could have imagined that within the next hour, something would happen at this ordinary playground that doctors, therapists, and specialists had all failed to achieve. Emma's silence was closer to breaking than anyone realized. Emma and Noah stood quietly beside the small pond, tossing pieces of bread toward the ducks as gentle ripples spread across the water. The late afternoon sun reflected like liquid gold, making the peaceful scene feel almost magical. Victoria and Daniel watched from a nearby bench, giving the children enough space to enjoy themselves while remaining close enough to step in if needed. That duck is definitely the captain, Noah declared confidently, pointing toward the largest duck in the pond. Emma looked where he pointed and smiled. And that little one, Noah continued, is his assistant. He keeps getting lost. Emma giggled silently again. Daniel smiled. He's turning every animal into a character. Victoria nodded. I haven't seen Emma this relaxed in years. The children wandered back toward the playground, where Noah challenged Emma to a game. Let's see who can collect the prettiest leaf. Without speaking, Emma accepted. The two searched beneath the large oak tree, carefully picking up colorful leaves that had fallen onto the grass. Noah proudly held up a bright red maple leaf. I win. Emma quietly revealed a golden leaf shaped like a tiny heart. Noah gasped dramatically. Okay, you definitely win. Emma's smile grew wider. Nearby, a sudden cry broke the peaceful afternoon. A frightened toddler had wandered too close to the edge of the playground and tripped onto the walking path. His toy rolled toward the parking lot. Without hesitation, Noah ran after the toy. Noah! Daniel shouted. At the same moment, a delivery van slowly turned into the parking area. Everything seemed to happen at once. Emma saw the danger before anyone else. Her eyes widened. The memories of another terrible accident flashed through her mind. The screeching tires, broken glass, frightened voices, and losing her father. For a split second, she froze. Then something inside her changed. With every bit of strength she had, Emma opened her mouth. Noah. Her voice came out hoarse, weak, and trembling from years of silence. But it was unmistakably a voice. Noah, stop. The entire playground fell silent. Noah instinctively froze. The van driver immediately braked. The toy stopped only a few feet ahead. Daniel reached Noah within seconds, pulling him safely into his arms. It's okay. I've got you. Noah, startled but unharmed, looked back toward Emma. Victoria couldn't move. Her hands covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. She had imagined hearing her daughter's voice thousands of times. Nothing could have prepared her for the real moment. Emma stood completely still. She looked shocked by her own words. Victoria slowly walked toward her, afraid that moving too quickly might shatter the moment. She knelt in front of Emma. Sweetheart. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Victoria gently took both of her daughter's hands. You spoke. Emma swallowed hard. For several long seconds, she struggled to find another word. Then, barely above a whisper, she looked into her mother's eyes. Mom. Victoria broke down completely. She wrapped Emma in the tightest hug she had ever given her. I've missed your voice so much. Emma clung to her mother, crying openly for the first time since the accident. I'm sorry, she whispered through tears. Victoria gently shook her head. You never have to apologize. I was scared. I know. I thought, if I talked. Emma struggled to continue. Dad would really be gone. Victoria held her daughter's face gently. He will always be with us. Emma nodded, crying softly. Daniel walked over carrying Noah. Noah smiled shyly. I'm glad you talked. Emma looked at him. A tiny smile appeared. Thank you. Those two simple words filled the park with emotion. Parents who had witnessed the moment quietly wiped away tears. Even the elderly man feeding birds nearby smiled warmly. Daniel looked at Victoria. I don't think Noah realizes what he just did. Victoria smiled through tears. He gave my daughter something no amount of money could buy. Daniel shook his head gently. No, he just treated her like every other kid. Victoria realized that was exactly what had made the difference. No pressure, no therapy, no expectations. Just kindness, patience, friendship, and a little boy who never cared whether Emma answered him or not. As the sun began to set, the four of them walked toward the parking lot together. For the first time in 3 years, the silence surrounding Victoria and Emma was gone. It had been replaced by something far more precious. Hope. And although none of them knew what the future would bring, they all sensed that this unexpected meeting at an ordinary neighborhood playground was not the end of their story. It was only the beginning of a new chapter, one built on healing, friendship, and the extraordinary power of simple human kindness.